So we're now recording and we've got a PowerPoint presentation, a short 2-minute video, and then I'm going to quickly show you how your students can make the application to these programs on the Medical Doorway website. It should take them no more than 10 minutes. So let's get the screen sharing started and let's go through the presentation that we've got ready for you today. There we go. Okay, so like I said, this will take around about 40 minutes or so to go through. At any point, if you have a question about what I'm saying, please tap it into the question and answer feature of Zoom, and we'll deal with all questions at the end. And we'll deal with the questions in a live manner, but I will actually type a response into the box as well, just in case you need something extra, as well as me speaking. So very briefly, we'll talk about Medical Doorway and then talk about studying medicine in the Czech Republic. By that, we're going to think about the country as well as the curriculum and, more importantly, the recognition of these qualifications all around the world. Then we're going to talk about the universities, and we've got 5 universities we're going to specifically talk about today. When we're doing that, we're going to look at the fees to actually study at the universities, the living costs, and also the costs to apply and sit the entrance exams. And very briefly at the end, as we go into the video, we're going to talk about the transition to university and then time for questions. I do get asked by a lot of schools and students and parents what it actually is Medical Doorway. Important thing to say is we're not an agent. Many of the universities we work with, in fact all of the medical schools that we do work with, are already oversubscribed to their English taught programs. So they don't actually need to recruit students. That's not what this is about. This is about identifying those students who are going to be most suitable to these programs and to get through the entrance exam and help find the right fit of the university options to the student. And that is why these universities directly fund us, to help them do that. They don't have the international offices that perhaps universities in the UK and the US do, and I know that having previously worked in a UK university. So if we give you an example of one of the universities, say Polanski University, the person in charge of coordinating the entrance exams and I would say promotion, for want of a better term, is also the person responsible for registering all the new students as well as re-registering students who return year on year on year. So ultimately that person doesn't have a capacity to go out and do these webinars or visit schools or speak to students on an individual basis. They're already at capacity with the work they've got. So they directly appoint Medical Doorway to act as a triage or a filter for students who are thinking about applying to these universities to ensure that if they do apply, they're going to be the most appropriate students possible, as well as have the opportunity to get through and to sit the entrance exams. We're also directly appointed by the universities to run the entrance exams closer to where students are based. So the universities do have entrance exams on their own site, but obviously that means only students who can travel on that specific date of that entrance exam to Europe can actually take the entrance exams there. As such, the entrance exams would be more popular with students from countries around the region. So if we're thinking about the Czech Republic, you will find more students from Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Italy, sometimes the UK, traveling to the universities directly. It's more difficult for students perhaps from Asian countries, especially when the exams clash with high school exams or IB exams, to travel out to Czech Republic and take the exams there. So we're appointed to run the entrance exams closer to where students are, maximizing the opportunities for students to take multiple exams, increasing the pool of students, so actually they're able to select the better students from that pool of applicants. So actually there's a greater level of success of student enrollment and progression through the course. In addition, we are there to support the students prior to their arrival, as well as during their arrival in country when they enroll and get settled to their new life as a medical or dental student. Now, I don't need to give anyone a geography lesson, but just for those who perhaps want a bit more clarification, Czech Republic, as you can see, is right in the center of Europe. So Germany is to the north, and for students who are based in Prague, Berlin is a very convenient 4-hour train journey away, and just south of Berlin you've got Dresden, which is a beautiful German city. So students are going to be in the center of Europe with amazing opportunities to travel. The Czech Republic is part of the Schengen area, so once students have actually arrived in the Czech Republic, they can travel across the Schengen area without any further passport checks. Perhaps for those students who go to another university in the south, you'll notice Vienna, the capital of Austria. That's 1.5 hours south of Brno, which is the Czech Republic's second biggest city, where Masaryk University is based. So in addition to getting a world-class education for the 6 years or 5 years of their studies, they're going to have the opportunity to travel across this area much easier than perhaps if they studied medicine in the UK. So they can get access to the program which they aspire to in continental Europe, taught in English. And the one thing I said yesterday to the counsellors from Latin America is that these are all state universities, completely non-for-profit. So 100% of the resources that the students invest in the university in terms of their tuition fees is reinvested directly in the staff, the salaries, the research, the facilities. And students do see, across the 6 years of their program, they do actually see a change in the university and a reinvestment in terms of facilities. An example at Masaryk University, opening this year, there's going to be a €40 million clinical simulation centre, which will be one of the biggest such centres in Europe. And that has been funded on the basis of a grant from the European Union, but also by reinvesting the tuition fees paid by the students into the university directly. All of these universities are world ranked, all come with a global recognition. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to that part of the presentation. But this qualification can take students around the world. And one of the benefits for students who are studying medicine or dentistry is there is a global shortfall of doctors, coupled with the fact that we are leading increasingly unhealthier lives and living longer with what we call the diseases of civilization. So most developed economies and many developing economies actually have a need to recruit doctors trained overseas. In the UK, we're having a special situation now with the advent of Brexit, where we are experiencing many of our European nationals leaving the UK who are doctors or dentists and nurses in the NHS, and we're having therefore to recruit more from further afield, but mostly British doctors who have trained overseas. The Czech Republic is actually one of the safest countries in the world. So I get asked this question by parents quite a lot if they've never been to the Czech Republic. They ask, how safe is it? If you look at the Global Peace Index, it's significantly safer than the United Kingdom, also safer than Germany, Australia. So students are able to study in one of the safest countries in the world, travel around the whole of Europe, as well as get a qualification from a world-ranked medical school. And on top of that, the living costs are substantially lower than the UK, USA, or perhaps the Caribbean, where many of the for-profit medical schools have been opening up. But also the tuition fees, as you will identify shortly, are significantly lower than for international students studying in any of these locations. But once students get there, they are studying a traditional medical curriculum. And this will be the kind of curriculum you will see across the Czech Republic. And in the 5 universities that we're going to discuss today, it's more or less an identical style of curriculum. Some of the modules may happen in different orders, but effectively in the first 2 years, students will study preclinical sciences. So the first 2 years are effectively like studying a science degree with a focus on moving to more clinically orientated content from year 3 onwards. So in the first 2 years, students will study chemistry, biology, anatomy, biochemistry, psychology, physiology, focusing on the normal. Once they get to the 3rd year of their program, that is when the clinical relevant material starts to appear, and they will look at anatomy, but they will look at pathological anatomy, so focusing on what happens to the anatomy when things go wrong, and then applying that in year 4 and 5 to specialities, including neurology, pediatrics, oncology, gynecology, etc. In the case of medicine, you'll notice the final year is what's called the internship year. This is 1 full year of internship in the hospitals, including rotations, where students will take the relevant state exams. And once they pass those state exams, they have a full European Union license in medicine. If we go back to the top, you will notice in the first 2 years, regardless of the program, right in the middle, we've got Czech language. All the tuition, all the exams are all in English, but students will be learning the local language for the first 2 years of the program to gradually develop a conversational level of Czech, so they can communicate with patients from year 4, 5, and year 6 of the program. It's important to note here that full fluency is not required, and students will always be supervised at all times in the clinical environment, and where translation is required, it is provided. Students, while this seems to be a concern going into the program, they soon realize that learning anatomy or biochemistry is significantly more difficult than learning the local language. And this doesn't just come from the lessons, this comes from the fact that the students will be engaging with the local students on the local program as they go through the program. Why? Those local students want to also work in Canada, the US, the UK, etc. And they see the international students as being a great resource for them to improve their English. So you'll find there's a huge mix of students, both local and international, socially as well as academically. So students can pick up the language, not just from lessons, but from the environment they're actually studying and living in. Once students have qualified as a doctor from the Czech Republic, their qualification can literally take them anywhere, well, nearly everywhere. It's an EU license, so they can work across the European Union. So should they speak another European language, say German or Italian, they can take that qualification to Germany, Italy, Austria, for example, and also to the UK as well. If students want to work in the UK from 2023, there is going to be a new licensing exam called the Medical Licensing Assessment. And you will find this in most regions across the world, that there is a form of licensing exam to gain a license in that particular country. So in the UK, it will be the Medical Licensing Assessment. In the United States, it's the USMLE, and students need to prepare for this from year 3 of their program because it's multi-step. In Canada, there are 2 exams, the Medical Council of Canada Qualifying Examination. And for those students who are perhaps looking to go to Hong Kong, there is the Hong Kong licensing exam as well. For those students from the Middle East, many Middle Eastern countries recognize the qualifications directly or have some form of exam, which is not to the same level as some of these exams, but they also, many of them are starting to accept the USMLE for admission to their medical practices in their own countries. There is one slight difference with Singapore. Singapore have a list of qualifications they recognize for recognition direct from university, and it's a very, very narrow list, a very short list of programs. In fact, many UK medical schools do not appear on that list. One thing to say is if a student does want to go to Singapore and wants to go straight from university, none of the universities we're going to talk about today are going to be appropriate. However, any of them will be appropriate if the student has then specialized in another country and has got a qualification as a consultant or a registrar surgeon after they have gone through a period of training, say, in the NHS in the UK. So for a student who's perhaps thinking about going to Singapore at some point, this doesn't stop them returning to Singapore, but they would have to wait until after they have specialized in their chosen field. So we're going to focus now on the 5 universities which are running the entrance exams in Asia this coming May. And these are the 5 universities we're going to discuss. Now I'm recording this and I will share this, so if you need something which is a snapshot, this will help. And I've just checked this one and it is all correct. So you'll notice we've got 5 universities. 3 are faculties of Charles University, 2 of them based in Prague, and 2 are other universities in other parts of the country. You'll first notice that the tuition fees are significantly lower than they're going to be in the United Kingdom for an international student, around about a quarter what the price would be for a world-ranked university with a global recognition. And I've estimated living costs, but this is obviously going to depend on how students choose to live. So this could go up, it can even come down if students particularly choose to live a rather frugal life. In terms of getting to those universities, there are slightly different procedures from one to the other. So, well, when we make the application, some universities require some form of supporting documentation, whether that be a passport or a personal statement, but not all require that. When we go through to the actual selection, all of the universities we're going to talk about today have an entrance exam, and we're going to talk in more detail about that for each specific university. Some of them will pair that up with an interview, which contributes to a higher or lower level depending on the university. And all of those features will feed through to a decision. And this is the one big difference compared to applying to the UK. The decision is often made on the day of the entrance examination, because the entrance exam will be marked, the interview will be graded, and the students will have their feedback on the day. So in the case of Masaryk University, Polanski University, Charles University first faculty and second faculty, the students will know on the day if they have cleared the entrance exam and if they will be receiving an offer. In the case of Charles University Hradec Králové, the papers are flown back to the Czech Republic where they're marked by a computer, and the students are given the result usually within 2 to 3 days. Either way, the students will know much sooner than perhaps if they've applied through UCAS to the UK and gone through the interviews, etc. here. And here's an example of some of our exams. These are actually some of our London exams, and you'll see the volume of students that we have applying. And bear in mind, each of these students has been screened before even getting to this stage. Applications are made through the Medical Doorway website, do not take too long. At the end of the presentation, we'll have the opportunity to show you how to do that. And the deadline for application is mid-April. The ultimate deadline for some of the universities is the end of April, but to ensure that we get everything done with no rushing or no stress during the students' examination periods, we want to get all applications cleared by mid-April if possible. If there are 1 or 2 students who are still hanging on, we will chase them up towards the end of April to ensure their applications are in and submitted so they can take the entrance exams. Now in Hong Kong, the entrance exams happen 1 week after the final IB exam has taken place. And we're actually holding them at KG5 school in Ho Man Tin, which is a great location to run the exams. It's quite a location compared to most of Hong Kong. And they will start on May the 28th and finish on June the 2nd. So 6-day window, 5 exams, maximizes the opportunities for students taking 1 trip. A little bit later on, we'll discuss the rationale for doing that, because for some students, even if they're in another part of the world, like last year we had students from Mexico and New York flying to Hong Kong for the exams. If we look at trying to take those exams in another location, it will often be more time, it will take a lot more time and it will be more expensive. All of the exams are multiple choice, and like I said, some of them do have interviews which contribute to a differing degree in terms of making a decision on a student's admission. So we'll focus first on Charles University Faculty of Medicine in Hradec Králové, which is something you will be able to say after you've spent some time in the Czech Republic. This exam is going to be the first one on Thursday, the 28th of May. Now, for those of you that have already identified, Charles University seems to appear multiple times in this faculty, in this presentation, I should say. The university is a bit like Oxford or Cambridge. It's a collegiate university made up of different parts, and there are actually 5 faculties of medicine within Charles University. 3 of them are in Prague, the first, the second, and the third. There are 2 outside of Prague, one, a small one in the city of Pilsen, and this one in the city of Hradec Králové, which is 90 minutes east of Prague. Now, this is a university town, a small university town of around about 100 to 120,000 people. It's based on 2 sites, which are only a 20-minute walk away from each other. And one of those sites is at the hospital. And the hospital in Hradec Králové is huge. It's a multi-department hospital where all of the students will have clinical placements in the clinical part of their program. And students and patients even come from outside of Hradec Králové and from Prague, even to some of the specialist centers at this particular hospital. And the fees here will be $14,000 per year, roughly. The fees are charged in the local currency, the Czech krone, but just so it kind of makes more sense, I've converted a rough estimation to US dollars, so roughly $14,000 a year. So you can automatically see there is a significant cost saving compared to studying medicine in the UK. The exam is multiple choice. It will consist of 4 papers. Basic human anatomy and physiology, which is basic, and this is often content which is covered on A-level or the IB. General biology, general chemistry, and a paper they call physics. Now, students do get concerned when they see the word physics, especially if they haven't taken physics at the higher level. What is noticeable is the physics is not as difficult as the level of biology and chemistry. And we've actually got data to support this. When we look at the difference in grades across a large pool of students, there's a less than 5% difference from the highest paper, which is usually biology, to physics, which will be the lowest paper. And that includes, and that is usually the case across all of our exams. And the vast majority of our students have not taken physics at the higher level or at A level if they've gone down the A level stream. We do actually also have a preparation program which sits alongside students' current studies, and they can look at some recorded lectures which kind of patch the gaps, perhaps, that they don't know. But the other thing to remember is there's a huge crossover between physics and maths, which enables the student to kind of get themselves up to speed on some of the content prior to going on to the entrance examination. And that's provided free of charge once the students have registered for the entrance exams. The second exam, which will be the day after, Friday the 29th of May, is for Masaryk University. Now, this is outside of Prague. It's in the Czech Republic's second biggest city, Brno, which is just north of Vienna. So perhaps students at the weekend want to get out of the Czech Republic, they can jump on a train and then go and visit the sites of Vienna on Saturday, from the Saturday, and then they can come back on the Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. It is an ultra-modern campus, and you'll see on the picture that the hospital is just next door to the faculties. The faculty is that red building and the hospital is next door. And this is one of two faculties in the Czech Republic approved for US federal loans. So we have a US student on federal loans straight from high school studying at this university. It will be the site of one of Europe's largest clinical simulation centres, which will be a 5-story simulation hospital, which is going to attract students from across Europe as well as just the university. Being outside of Prague, the fees are lower. We're looking at about $13,500 US a year to study here. And in the case of this university, that fee can be split into 2 installments, one for the first semester, one for the second semester. So a very cash flow safe university to study in. The entrance exam is multiple choice. There's no interview for this particular program, although all students are interviewed after the exam. It doesn't contribute to the grade. It's simply just to get to know the student to ensure they can communicate effectively. But the exam is biology, chemistry, and in this case, the student gets to choose between a maths paper or a physics paper. Less applicants internationally for this program compared to Charles because it's not in Prague, but the university itself is spectacular with some amazing outputs and direct relations with UK hospitals for employment afterwards. These hospitals do fly to the university and interview the new graduating students, and often they'll therefore have job offers even before they've graduated. About 1 hour away from Brno, you'll find a small town of Olomouc, which is the site of the Czech Republic's second oldest medical school, Polanski University. Around about 25% of the population of this town are students, so it's a very vibrant environment for students. Not a particularly big place, but lots going on for students, and the university and the local authorities are very linked together, doing activities together to ensure that both the university contributes to the local area, as well as students actually benefiting from being in Olomouc. Similar to Masaryk University, the medical faculty and the hospital are on one site next door to each other. But being a small university town, the living costs and the tuition fees here are lower still. So we're looking at $12,000 a year to study here with an entrance exam in Hong Kong on the 30th of May. And the exam is similar to Masaryk University, biology, chemistry. The student gets to choose between maths or physics, and there will be an interview which contributes a very small level towards the overall mark. Usually the interview is used if a student is borderline passing the entrance exam to determine if they can be made an offer or not. Now, I've raised this university here and I've got an extra slide about this university. This is to prove a point that you don't need to go to a capital city university to actually take your career to the next level. The surgeon who led the USA's first full face transplant qualified from Polanski University and went to the United States immediately after graduation and did his training in the United States, and then went on to lead the USA's first full face transplant, which was only the third full face transplant performed anywhere. He's now a professor at Harvard, as well as a consultant reconstructive surgeon at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. If you want to know more about Dr. Bohdan Pomachach, he has a wonderful TED talk, which you can find on YouTube, and he talks about his decisions about moving into face transplantation and about some of the patients that he's worked on in the procedures that he's conducted. But now we're going to move north, and we're going to move to the capital city, to Prague, and the entrance exam, which is going to happen on Monday, the 1st of June. And this is the first of the faculties in Prague we're going to talk about. This is the Charles University second Faculty of Medicine. Now, it doesn't mean it's second because it's second best. It was simply the second faculty inaugurated within Prague, and it was previously the site of a postgraduate specialization center in pediatrics. And as such, it's still based in the Motol Hospital, which is a specialist pediatric hospital just on the outskirts of Prague. Although it's not in the center, there's a direct, it's got its own stop on the Prague Underground, so students can get from that underground to the center of Prague in less than 15 minutes. And it's one of only 2 programs in the Czech Republic and very few programs in Europe that are Californian accredited. So if a student is thinking about going to work in the United States and wants the option of going straight to California, qualifying from second faculty gives them that opportunity. It is $15,000 a year, so you'll start to see the fees do get more expensive, but they get the chance to stay in one of the most vibrant, safest capital cities in Europe. Now, the entrance exam for this one is different than the rest. It's a much kind of bigger entrance exam in terms of the aspects of it. There is a multiple choice exam in biology, chemistry, and some basic physics, but the students will also do a few questions in logical reasoning, non-verbal reasoning, similar to some of the questions they will find on the UK CAT, or UCAT as it's now called. Students who progress through that stage and get a certain score will then progress to the interview, which contributes a significant number of marks as well. And the idea is that the students use the exam and the interview to get through the passing grade and then receive their offer. Last year, the Hong Kong exams, all but 2 of the students received an offer from this specific university because they were so good on the entrance exam, but also exceptional on the interview as well. And we're really proud that a number of the students who went through those exams are now studying at the second Faculty of Medicine in Prague. And last, but by no means least at all, obviously, is Charles University in Prague, first Faculty of Medicine, which was one of the founding faculties of Charles University, and as such is the 11th oldest medical school in the world. In addition to having Californian accreditation like second faculty, it's also US federal loan approved, and we have a number of US students on federal loan studying in this particular faculty. For those who've been to Prague, this is literally in the center behind Wenceslas Square, about a 15-minute walk from the old town. There's a huge, large university hospital in the area. So this whole area is a university and hospital area. So students will not have to go very far to visit the main hospital in this region. But the university does, or the faculty, I should say, does use various hospitals across the city, including Motol, for student clinical placements. And this exam is on the 2nd of June, and we always run this exam last in this series. The students will sit a multiple choice paper in biology, chemistry, and basic physics, and that will be followed by an interview which contributes grades, not as much as the second faculty, but does contribute to the overall score by which students will be made an offer. Now, internationally, this is the hardest faculty to get into. There are roughly 10 applicants per place to the English language program, and as a result, the success rate of getting through the entrance exam is lower than other faculties. But our Hong Kong exams have a particularly high passing rate, which the dean himself was extremely surprised with when he came out to Hong Kong to run the entrance exams in May last year. So they're very excited about the Hong Kong exams because they've identified that students from the Asian region tend to perform better than students from Europe or North America. So you may ask, why run the exams in Hong Kong if students can travel to Europe to take the exams? Previously, when we run the exams in the UK or Europe, students would travel to those exams from Asia. And because of the way that the exam dates work, many of those exams could only be taken if the student remained in the region for up to 3 weeks, because the faculties don't have consecutive exam dates. They have the exam dates that suit their team and suit their curriculum. Also, the exams would often clash with exams for A-levels or the IB, so it took us a huge number of students out of applying. So when we spoke to the universities, we recommended running the exams in a hub in Asia, and Hong Kong was the natural hub, and we've been running them now at King George V School for the last 2 years. This gives us the opportunity to run the 5 exams over 6 days, and that has been very attractive to students from across the region. We've had students from New Zealand and Australia fly to Hong Kong, stay in Hong Kong for those 6-day period, take all the exams, same as students from Japan, mainland China, Thailand, Taiwan. The last year we had students flying in from Mexico and North America, New York, specifically because they could take all the exams in one major hub, one trip from their own city, and that maximized their opportunities of getting an offer. One of those students, for example, who came in, she didn't pass the exam for first faculty or Masaryk University, but she did pass the other exams, and she's now at Charles University second faculty. If she just traveled to Europe to take one of the exams, she may not have had that opportunity, and it may have been a wasted journey. In this case, it wasn't. We have staff with students supporting them and their parents while the exams are ongoing. Students will get access to our online preparation, and it represents a significant cost saving rather than traveling multiple times to Europe or having an extended stay to actually sit the entrance exams in Europe or the UK. So it's a third year, and what you'll find is the exams generally have a higher passing rate than if taking the exams locally in country. And why is that? I think it's due to the fact that they're not in a room of 300 other people. So it's a much more interpersonal environment. If they're in a room of 20, 30 people, it's easier to speak to students individually, get them settled down, rather than the more mechanicistic way of taking an exam in a huge university hall with 200, 300 other students. That means perhaps going into the exam, they feel more at ease and are able to perform better, demonstrate their knowledge on the exam, to therefore get an offer after they've completed the exams and the interview. But there is a cost to taking the exams, because running the exams in other regions of the world does actually cost. The first thing I'll say is why we run the exams. We don't conduct the exams personally. We actually bring staff from the universities to these various exam locations and run the exams there. So in the case of the Czech exams, we could have up to 7 examiners across the course of the week running the exams. It was 8 last year running the exams in these different regions. So the first fee is the application fee. This costs £250. This covers all of the university's own application fees, so the students don't have to pay that directly. They're paid direct to the university from Medical Doorway. It also then covers our fixed costs of the staff that we have helping students with the exams. And then there is an exam fee of £1,000, which covers all 5 exams. That basically covers the venue hire, flights and accommodation of the examiners that we have to then bring from the Czech Republic to these different locations. But as I said at the beginning of the presentation, our job is to screen students to ensure only the most appropriate students get through to take the exams. And as a result, if a student doesn't receive at least one offer from these 5 exams, they will receive that exam fee fully refunded. Means that there's an offer guarantee to the student, because if they haven't cleared any of the exams, they obviously weren't the most appropriate student to sit these exams, and we don't want the students unnecessarily out of pocket. This is actually quite a unique feature of what we do, which gives that reassurance that what we're doing is supporting the students as best as we can, as well as helping the universities find the most suitable students for their programs. So we have been working with students for many, many years. We have many graduates now working in the NHS and much further afield. And these are some of our students who are qualifying this year from Czech Republic, who will be qualifying as doctors. But before getting there, they do need to actually arrive in the country. For students who are non-EU passport holders, they will need to apply for the long stay visa. Now, we advise students to start the process of doing this prior to the exams, specifically getting their no criminal conviction certificate from their local authorities and making sure we can get that translated into Czech as well as legalized in their own country. More detail on this will be sent to students who've applied. It's not a particularly difficult process, but what students need to be aware of is that this process can take up to 60 days after they've had their appointment at the Czech embassy. So getting that appointment is earlier if they've got their documentation ready. Once they've had their appointment and sent in the documentation at the embassy or consulate, depending on where they're applying, they will get their visa within that 60-day window and be able to enroll at the end of September at the university of choice in the Czech Republic. Accommodation is guaranteed. It has to be guaranteed because one of the documents the students need to hand in at the embassy is an accommodation certificate from the university. And when they go to collect their visa, they'll need to provide evidence they've got health insurance. Now, if they don't have health insurance in their own country, they can actually buy health insurance online from the main Czech health insurer, and it literally costs a few $100s, just like $200 or $300 for a full year of comprehensive health insurance, which is much cheaper than perhaps other health insurers they may provide or may find in other locations. So what we're going to do now is, as I said, we do have many students. We're going to change the screen share over, and you're going to get the chance to look at a video of some of our students who enrolled in September last year. So if I just go to the screen share. And give you the chance to watch this video of some of our students. And one of the students here did actually take the entrance exam. So it's Saturday the 31st of August. We're back at Brno University of London for the 2019 Czech Republic pre-departure briefing. This year we've run more exams than ever before for the Czech Republic universities, with well over 100 students receiving offers. We've run exams for Charles University First Faculty, Second Faculty, Third Faculty, and the Faculty in Hradec Králové, as well as Ostrava University, Polanski University, Masaryk University, and the University of Veterinary and Pharmaceutical Sciences in Brno. Now, there are systems in place in the first week to help with that. You're going to have university tours. And why? Because other students have been through it and they want to help you guys out.
Hi, my name is Taran Pri. I'm a fourth-year medical student at Charles First Faculty in Prague. I found Medical Doorway just on Google after I finished my A-levels. They've been there the entire time. And it's been so helpful just to have a point of contact. And now there are younger students coming through into first and second year who message Ben messages me, and we've got this whole network within the uni that's just so useful. As long as you organise your time, you have so much time.
So in 2019 we ran exams in Manchester, London, Hong Kong and Madrid. So we've got a real diverse group of students enrolling in the Czech Republic this year.
I heard about Medical Doorway through searching because I wanted to study in Europe. I had my exam in Hong Kong, which was pretty cool. Don't be scared, Medical Doorway will act as a cushion for everything.
Quite looking forward to it. Ben has been really helpful throughout the process of application and the exam and anything else that I needed to do, like the legalization of documents. That was really convenient because he did everything for me, so I didn't really need to do much except turn up to the exam, give the exam.
In addition to talks from myself, we also have 3 students who are currently studying in the Czech Republic, both medicine and dentistry, as well as colleagues from the Czech Republic who are introducing the country and these fabulous universities to them.
Okay, so the Czech Republic is different in some ways to Great Britain, obviously, but many things are the same.
My name is Atta. I'm a 5th year dental student now at Polanski University. I've had a hell of a 5 years. It's been amazing. It's been a great experience and I would never take it back. I'm really glad I went to the Czech Republic, in fact. Medical Doorway really facilitated my exam for the entrance, and also a lot of the support system and my questions about entering the Czech Republic. Ben honestly knows too much. He just filled my head with information, and it was a lot easier after speaking to Ben, even personally. He has time for everyone, actually. When you're in the university halls, you're surrounded by your friends and people that you can actually socialise and communicate with, and you also find out things.
So I'm a 4th year medical student studying at Masaryk. I found my way here using Medical Doorway. I've come here to give something back to Ben and also to people that are in the same or similar situation to me. Try and get as much of that as possible, because out of those 150 questions, 5 of them you might not do.
Obviously Ben's always there to reach out to, so every time I've called him he's literally picked it up within a few rings and he's like, oh hey Assad, how can I help? And he'll usually answer the question straight away and kind of just ease the nerves and everything a little right there and then.
If you're going from Prague to Hradec Králové, there's a train every hour, direct. Our plans for 2020 enrolment are already underway. In addition to the exams in Hong Kong and the UK and Spain, we'll be running exams in Sao Paulo to cater to students from across Latin America as well. If you're an aspiring doctor, dentist or vet seeking to study at some of Central Europe's highest ranked universities, get in contact with Medical Doorway, either call our office, visit our website and get our full free of charge support. Okay. We'll just revert back to where we are. If you need to get in contact with us, you can get in contact with us very easily on our website. Also, direct email, which you probably have for me already. Let me just remove those panelists. And all alternative followers on social media. So what we have now is we have plenty of time for questions, but before that, what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate to you how you can actually apply. So if you go to the Medical Doorway website, you can click on Apply Now, or you can follow the universities, or you could even click on Exams, which is at the top of the website here. But if you click on Apply Now, you'll see links to all the different universities which are part of the network. If you click on any of the Czech Republic universities, you'll see the flags about where you want to take the entrance exams. So if you click on Take the Entrance Exams in Hong Kong, it will bring you up to this form, and you'll notice the 5 universities which are running the entrance exams are in Hong Kong. Students need to fill this form in. They don't have to submit their passport. It can be helpful if they do, but they don't have to. And once they click submit, the application will come through to us directly. If they wanted to take the exams in another location, say the UK, you'll notice there are more universities because we run exams for Ostrava, the 3rd faculty, as well as the veterinary faculty in the UK as well. So, if we just go back to any questions now, that's taken about 45 minutes, which was roughly what I expected. We have plenty of time for some questions. So if you've got any questions at all, please just type them in. And then someone said, do these universities provide a degree for international license? Well, I don't know who this is because it's anonymous, but basically when you take international license, there's no such thing as an international license to be a doctor as such. All the programs are listed in the World Health Organization's Directory of Medical Schools, and they're also on the FAME listing as well, which is for USMLE eligibility. That's the nearest thing you can get to an actual license, even though it's not actually a license. Each country is responsible for its own licensing under WHO rules. So each sovereign state has that responsibility. We've come across very few places, only really Singapore, which I've noticed where these programs are not recognized. What we've got now is someone has said a question on the thing. My student has applied to Charles directly and has decided to sit for the exam in Cyprus. Any reason not to do it this way? Should I send it here? It's completely up to the student. I don't know if that student has applied and paid to actually take the exam with another representative. But if she needs any more advice, please do drop her an email over if she wants to take the exam in the UK or Hong Kong. If she's applied to sit only Charles First faculty or Hradec Králové, I would say it's a very risky strategy, because those are 2 of the harder exams, and it might be the case that if she takes those exams at a certain date and is not successful, there's going to be very little opportunity for her to actually then take other exams to get admission in September. Okay. Right. Student looking to start in 2021. The exams are actually next year. So these exams that are taking, so if a student wants to take the exams, wants to enroll in 2021, they take the exams in 2021. So these exams that happen in May are actually for the enrollment in September. So it's actually in the same year. So it's a much shorter turnaround than it would be, okay? Than if perhaps applying to the UK where you applied the year before. Someone said, where could I become a doctor? I'm assuming where you mean these qualifications can take you. You could work in the United States, Canada, Australia. There are more or less most countries of the world will accept these qualifications for actually practicing as a doctor. Alexandra, am I getting it right? Every faculty or university campus has its own separate exam. Yes, it does. So if someone applied to 3 faculties of Charles University, then yes, it's 3 separate exams. So basically, it treats each faculty as a separate university. Anonymous, Japan, yes, these qualifications are recognized in Japan. In fact, we have Japanese students who are actually working back in Japan who've qualified from the universities in the Czech Republic. There's actually a long history of Japanese students coming to the Czech Republic. We've got Japanese students in Charles First faculty, as well as Korean students in Charles First faculty. We've got Japanese students in Masaryk University and Polanski University. And this year we had a student go to Charles University in Prague. Someone's asked about license for practice for the, I'm just clearing a few of these questions. License to practice in the USA, right. If you want to practice in the United States, you have to go through a system called the United States Medical Licensing Exams. Now, students generally will start taking those exams from year 4 of the program. There are 3 exams that the student has to do to actually apply for the match or the residency match. One is the USMLE Step 1, which is an online exam. The student has to have permission of their faculty, so they have to sign up for that exam. They have to have a document signed off by their university. Once they have had that signed off and they take the exam, it's a multiple choice exam. Once they pass that exam, they will then get ready for their Step 2 exams. The Step 2 clinical knowledge, which is again is an online exam. Once the student has cleared that exam, they will then register for Step 2 clinical skills, which is a practical exam they have to take in the United States. Once they've cleared that exam and graduated from their university, they will apply for ECFMG certification. And once they've got that registered, they can then enter what's called the residency match and take up the vacancies across the United States. So what I would say is if a student's looking at doing that, they need to perhaps do their research quite early on to start preparing for the USMLE Step 1. The issue with USMLE is once you've actually passed the step, your mark is frozen. You can't retake the exam again to get a higher mark. So preparation is central if students want to do that, to have a match that they want. So Japanese students will be able to work in Japan hospitals without a Japanese medical license. No, you will actually get a Japanese medical license once you've qualified from the Czech Republic. So what would happen is when you return to Japan, you would apply to the Japanese Medical Council on the strength of the qualification you've gained from the Czech Republic. What you don't need to do is qualify from a Japanese university or a Japanese medical school. You can qualify from a medical school overseas and apply for licensure in Japan. And that has been done by many, many Japanese students who go back to work in Japan as a doctor. Someone's asked about online preparation. Yes, we have an online preparation program called Czech Test Prep. That's currently 3 modules, chemistry, physics, and maths. We are working on biology at the moment. In addition, we have additional resources which are going to be digitized and sent out to all the applicants. I know physics is a concern. It's a concern for everyone who's taking these exams, but it doesn't seem to translate to any reduction in passing rate compared to exams that have maths or used to have a maths component. But we have an online program which we've had specifically designed against the schedules of these entrance exams, which all of our applicants can actually access, as well as some print materials which we're sending out by email as well. The link is Czech Test Prep, czechtestprep.com, but you have to get a password for it, a username for it, which is given to applicants once they've applied and registered for the entrance exams. I'll send a link now in the chat feature. Okay, that's the, there isn't any more questions or comments. If there are any more questions, we've got this done in less than an hour, which was my plan. Okay, I hope that's been beneficial. I hope everyone's taken something away from that, which they can digest. This is recorded, so it will be going online. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, please feel free to email me, ben@medicaldoorway.com. If you need to email me anything, if you need to email anything or any other questions at all, please feel free anytime. We're always here, always able to answer questions. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find out for you.